All right. Hey guys, Rowan here again from SportsTechX. It's that time of the year, and we're back with the latest edition of the SportsTech VC report. Usually published in November. Last year we were a bit late. It was I think it was in the first week of December that we published it. But this year we're back on schedule. It was published last week. If you don't know what it is and haven't downloaded it, it's probably unlikely that you're here, but I'll give you a quick brief anyways. It is a summary of the investment activity in sports tech over the last 5 years, and especially focused on this year, I should say, 2024. What is more likely is that you probably seen the report, maybe haven't had time to read the whole thing. It is a pretty long piece of text, long document. So then what you're looking for is a summary, and over the next 58 minutes or so, I plan to take you through the key findings from the report, what have been the latest trends in the world of sports tech over the last year, summarizing investment and innovation data, and then presenting it to you so that we can have a discussion about what is likely to happen going forward, right? We'll let the history inform us and then look at what is coming up next. I am, of course, here in Berlin. It is a bit cold now at that time of the year. And as you can see from a nice thick jumper that I've got on. So tell me where you are. Tell me what it's like in your part of the world. Say hello in our chat from wherever it is that you're joining. I can see David is already here. Always a pleasure to speak with you, David. We actually have to catch up on some ISTA and SportsTechX stuff. For those of you who don't know, we ISTA, the SportsTech Association, which David is a key member of, and SportsTechX announced a partnership to work on research projects. More details on that on their website. But yeah, get in touch if you want to know more about sports tech research and different types of content and different types of programs that the ISTA runs alongside SportsTechX. So say hello on the chat. Tell us where you're from. I'm always curious to know where you guys are, how you guys are feeling. We'll give it a couple of minutes till everybody streams in. In that time, what I will do is I will pull up the report already. We should be switching into this screen now. The investment trends is always interesting to see for me, right? We want to know what's happening from a global perspective. We want to see, especially in this last year, follow the money, right? That is our mantra. We want to know what has been the latest, coolest trends in sports tech. We want to focus on, there we go. Took us a second. We want to focus on the latest trends. We want to focus on the investment. We want to focus on what we believe is driving this investment in the world of sports tech, and we let the data speak for itself. So if you've been to one of our sessions, you should know that to keep the sessions as interactive as possible. So if you have any question at any point in time, just drop a note in the chat and I'll try to answer it. It might be relating to the data that I'm actually talking about on screen, or it might be, yeah, about something else. I'm not sure if you can see me super smooth. It feels like this camera is a bit glitchy. Yeah, I hope it doesn't bother you too much. The main attention is on the slides anyway. Okay, so should we jump into it? This is, of course, the SportsTech VC report that we published last week. Our goal with this report is to summarize investment information over the last year, especially, and looking at the last 5 years. We do this with the help of some key partners that we have on board. Sports for All is a youth sports tournament organizer based out of India. We're in fact working with them to produce the first ever Indian sports business and tech report. It will be out in a couple of weeks, so stay tuned for that one. If you are at all curious about the Indian sports tech market. Apart from that, we have a number of startups that we always feature. I always like to have some really high quality startups in the report just to give a flavor of the different types of solutions that are out there. We had Remaker, which is around fitness tech, ResTech, which is a device for hockey, Sport AI, which does a lot of data aggregation for sport, and Zoomf, which is around analytics for for media measurement in sports. I feel like this camera is a bit glitchy, so actually, guys, I'm going to switch out the camera. Let's see if that makes a different camera. Just hold on. Yeah, this should maybe help. No, the camera's not coming on. I'm going to go back to the one that I had. Yeah, there you see me again. Yeah, if it is appear a bit glitchy and stuff, then hope you forget it, and we can focus on the data. Okay, so those are the partners. What else do we have? We also have, of course, the pro version of the report. This is the free edition that I'm going to walk you through. But if you are here, then one of the things that you're lucky to see is that I will be showing you a lot of content from the pro report. So yeah, normally we charge about €1,000 for the pro report. We have an offer running that if you sign up for the pro report, you also get the Pro DB free, right? Our SportsTech DB Pro edition, which has all the startups that are in our database, along with the number of filters and ways for you to look through the high quality startups that we have in SportsTech. Okay, moving right along. Let's jump right into it. What has been happening in the world of sports tech in 2024? Actually, the year kind of surprised me. It started off really slow, and to be honest, I was quite worried. By the time we hit in June, we were not even at $1 billion, I think, in total funding. I think well below that, which was on track to be the worst ever year for sports tech. I was wondering what report we will write. I mean, if it's all going to be doom and gloom, but turned out to be not so much. Q3 was a really strong quarter for sports tech, over 50% of the 2.3 billion. So the end of year number 3 billion is a projection. The data in the report, as it says somewhere over here, is till September 30th. So at the end of Q3, Q4 is still to be accounted for. Of course, we're 45 days into Q4, but we have to take a data cutoff. So what we do is we try to extrapolate the data till Q4. And that is what that 2.9 billion number is. The actual count is 2.3 billion. Now, out of that 2.3 billion, about half that investment data came in Q3, which is really interesting for us to see. We've also seen some pretty significant deal flow, 6.7 billion in global M&A that went out. this year, mergers and acquisitions all around sports tech. Last year was a lot bigger, but that's still pretty strong deal flow. From an M&A perspective, 6.7 billion. That takes the total funding projected for this year to be around the $10 billion mark. So not as bad as we thought. We would like it to be a bit higher. It does tend has ended up a bit lower than last year, but still not as bad as I thought it would be. Let's say at the end of June. Top companies, we had the biggest round was by 350 million into Infinite Reality. You don't know what they do, we'll show you in a second. 9 new unicorns this year in sports tech. I think we had 32 last year and we have 35 this year. 9 came in, 6 went out. That's quite a bit of churn. So valuations going up and down fair bit in the industry. We'll take a look at which of those 9 companies were added to the unicorns list. In terms of top trends, we talk about sports M&A or sports tech M&A. It's nearly 7 billion. 37 billion was the overall sports M&A, which was actually much bigger than last year, which is really interesting to see. And another important fact was 65% of all funding went into fan-focused solutions. The 5-year trend is at about 20, from 2020 to 2024, is at about 50%. For only 20, from 2020 to 2024 was 53%. For only 2024 was 65%. So quite a jump in the share of funding for fan-focused solutions. Any surprises, any comments, any questions? Like I said, drop them in the chat and I'll do my best to pick them up over the course of this stream. Right, let's get into it. The 5-year funding chart. You can see this chart goes up and down quite a bit. 2020 was a fairly even year between, I should explain it first. The green bar is the investment bar, talks about new funding in sports tech. The gray bar is the M&A bar. So we look at how much money there was in equity-based investment and how much was in M&A transactions. So new funding versus, let's say, consolidation. You can see 2021 new funding, there was a lot more. M&A activity kind of mirrored what the 2020 levels. 2022, again, lots of new equity funding, not much M&A activity. This is, peak time of valuation of peak sports tech valuations. It was kind of like second half of 21 going into first half of 22. I would say that 12-month period is actually where things were at their peak. By Q4 of 22, we already saw a pretty significant slowdown, and 2023 was really slow. $2.3 billion in terms of equity transactions, but it was a mirror of 2021 because M&A activity went through the roof. It was almost as much as the previous 3 years combined. That goes to about 12 billion. It was about $11 billion on its own. What that meant was that the combined figure for equity and equity-based funding and M&A funding was at about 13 billion. This number in 2024 is at 9.6 billion, which is also really interesting to see that even though the numbers look fairly small, but they've both grown a bit from the previous years. In 2022, it was kind of skewed one way. In 23, again, skewed another way. Here, those levels are a bit more close together and still giving us a $10 billion number, which is the low of 4 years, but almost in line with 2022 and already higher than the pandemic year. So we've had it worse for sure, even though the equity investment number was fairly low at about $3 billion. Q3 was 50% of that funding I've already mentioned, which is the really interesting thing to see. And now I'll show you a breakdown of this. And this is where, if you're joining us, you get a bit of a sneak peek into some of the paid stuff. This is a chart that we show in the Pro edition, and you can really see that number over the year, and bang, and start of July, August, September, those 3 months are higher than any previous month. July is almost double of, and it is actually more than double of the best month, which is August. There were a couple of big deals. Infinite Reality, Cosm raised 250 million. Yeah, so those are the two big deals that happened. Then TickPick, which is the third big deal of the year, happened in August. So July was a big month for SportsTech investment, and meant that Q3 started with a bang. Q4, I have to be honest, we're of course tracking the data, even though it's not on the slide. Q4 hasn't looked that hot. October was a fairly slow month. We saw one deal. Toka Football raised about 100 billion, and wasn't much more after that. I think October ended at about 170 or 180 million. If you track our monthly summary reports, we do share this in our newsletter every month. So you might see it there that October wasn't as hot. We're hoping November and December picks up from the deal flow perspective. But at least this shows you clearly that Q3 was really what propelled this year forward from an investment perspective. We hope Q4 will follow suit. What are the big countries that are contributing to this deal flow, where this deal flow is taking place? From a 5-year perspective, it's always the US. They are by far ahead of anybody else. India, China, Germany, UK round out, round out the top 5. And 4 of them make it into the top 5 in 2024 as well. But Japan, Australia are new entries onto the list. Good to see that there is a wider network of sports tech activity. That is always something that we welcome. And we also have other new entrants like UAE and Costa Rica. Now, I must say that a lot of that is to do with the fact that the deal volume is fairly low. So one deal or 2 deals in that market straight away propels that country onto a top 10 list. At these levels, that's the nature of the beast. There's high variance driven by isolated transactions. And that is, in fact, further highlighted in the cities list. But if I look at the 2024 list and you look at this column on the right, what we call share of top deal, quite a few of those, I think all barring 3 are north of 80%. It's only LA, Austin, and Bangalore where the top deal makes up less than 80% of the total investment in that city. But Washington, New York, Dallas, Munich, it's 100%. There was one big deal for eGym, which we saw in this year. Even the city like London, it was one deal which propelled London into the top 5, which is nice to see because it wasn't there in last year's list. So that's where this funding is taking place. Let's talk about what sectors this funding was going into, right? We always look at the breakup by the solutions in athletes, solutions for fans, and solutions for executives. This is our focus and how we break up the sports tech market. I was just checking whether everything is streaming correctly on LinkedIn. Guys, being awfully quiet. Normally, I have a healthy live discussion on this channel. So drop a line in the chat. Tell me if any of this data is surprising to you, if any of this seems controversial or not, or this is more or less what you expected, that investment will be lower in 2024. It seems to me the trend carrying on from 2023. Anyway, coming back to this chart. So we see the funding broken up, that same 5-year funding and the 2024 funding broken up by solutions for athletes, solutions for fans, and solutions for executives. Now, over the last 5 years, you see fan solutions favored, certainly at 53%. We've also broken it down by subsector and highlighted the top company in each of those subsectors. So all of that data is there. I'll focus for now on the percentages that you see at the end of the big columns. So 35% of investment went into athlete-focused solutions, 53% went into solutions for fans, and 11.5% into solutions for executives, B2B solutions. That is the summary for the last 5 years. In only 2024, this changes pretty significantly. The for athletes share drops by 10%, The for fans share drops or increases by a little more than 10%, going from 53 to 65%. Solutions for athletes went down to 24, whereas the B2B solutions remain at the same level, around 11%. 65% of all investment in 2024 went to solutions for fans. I think last year it was around 53 or something. It's bumped up even higher. So last year was kind of on track with the 5-year trend. This year was even higher. So clearly, investors are really focused on solutions that are focused on fans, and they want to be able to monetize the end consumer in sports in a better way. Infinite Reality does all sorts of immersive experiences around sport. Minute Media, a content company. Cosm is also around immersive experiences in sports. The two biggest deals this year were in that space. Speaking of biggest deals, here are the top companies. The all-time list on the left and the 2024 list on the right. I mentioned Infinite Reality, TickPick, and Cosm, three companies that are all focused on fans, which raised a lot of money this year, 350, 250, and 250 respectively. Not far behind was eGym with 225. This is smart gym equipment and smart equipment and software for gyms and for fitness facilities. Minute Media was the next company, which create content, different types of content, which owns different type of content platforms in sports. And those are the only deals above 100 million. We have seen one in Q4 already, but not too much more beyond that. The rest of the deals, we saw some nice deals for classic football shirts, Winners Alliance, things like this. But yeah, no other nine-figure deals. Is only 5 of them in this year. On the top companies list, we see a lot of the older names continue to stay on there. Not much change in this list from Fanatics, Peloton, Keep, CureFit, Sorare. They all stay on, even though they have not raised significant amounts of funding in the last couple of years. In terms of M&A deals, quite a few, and we break this up into the highest deals by transaction value, and then the other notable deals. So by transaction value, a lot of that is in betting, from Snitech, who were acquired by Flutter, or Jackpocket, which is acquired by DraftKings. The two biggest deals were, and this has been consistent across the board since we've been tracking acquisitions for about 3-4 years. Most of the biggest ticket acquisitions happen in and around the betting space. That said, there are other topics as well: gaming, something around health tech, some interesting other areas that get covered in the bigger ticket transactions. The other notable acquisitions, the combination of Huddle and StatsBomb, I think that'll have a really interesting impact, because those are two pretty ubiquitous providers. They've been in the sports industry for a while. Stakes, which was acquired by Infinite Reality, the company that we mentioned before. More betting transactions, Sybilbet by DraftKings, but others, Satisfy Labs, for example, they were acquired, or is kind of like a merger actually, by Broad W, and they in turn acquired an Indian company, Factorial, which is involved in fan data, which is essentially creates a customer data platform. Teamworks, a company that we know well, they have been really busy in the acquisition space for a while. They continued their spree in 2024, buying Kairos Tech. So quite a few deals from companies that we know, and covering a broad spectrum of areas, from fan, from athlete, from betting, and across different topics. The unicorns, the haves, if you will, in sports tech, quite a few of them. We've got 35 on this list, up from 32 from last year. As I mentioned, 9 new ones, 6 dropped out. That is an interesting, let's say, churn that we've noted. But yeah, these are the guys that still are holding strong. The new entrants feature companies. Who should I talk about? Zwift was a new entrant this year. Vagaro, Pure Gym, Minute Media, eGym. Some of the new entrants this year that entered the unicorn club, and there are a few sunicorns as well. We call them companies that are sitting on the edge. You can check out the report for a full list of those. Another sneak peek into the pro report. Now, there's a lot of content, a lot of data on this slide, but just to give you a sense of what the pro report also holds, maybe take a screenshot or something if you want to. But what we break down is the top 5 funded companies by subsector from 2020 to 2024 across the 5 categories for activity, hardware, software, before and after activity, the content platforms, fan experience, fantasy sports betting, organizations and venues, and media and sponsors, all the commercial stuff. So we really break down and provide as much depth as we can into which are the main companies under each topic over the last 5 years. What we also provide in the report are snapshots. We have a global snapshot, which is always available, providing a summary of the last 5 years of funding by sector, by B2B or B2C, top countries, top companies, and then we do it by region, by North America, Europe, Asia Pacific, and rest of the world. Those 4, and then we also do it by subsector. So the 9 subsectors that we have, each of these that you see over here also has a complete drill down page. So you can see the 5-year funding trend across those subsectors. You can see the top countries. You can see the top companies. All that data is available in the pro edition of the report. If you're interested in it, feel free to reach out. The links are there in the free version where you want to buy it. Okay, going into the key trends, moving swiftly along, about where sports is headed. The 3 ones that we really talk about are increased M&A in sports. We've seen $37 billion worth of deal flow in 2024. Some of the biggest ones include Endeavor by Silver Lake. Endeavor, a property that has been in and out of, it's not completely sports, but they do cover sports in a big way. They don't do only sports, let's say. They do sports also. They do from talent management to media rights to everything. Endeavor has been deeply involved in various transactions around the sale and purchase of the UFC, of the WWE, their consolidation. They've recently been involved in a few more transactions around betting and such. So Endeavor is a company that has been busy. Ari Emanuel certainly has been on the feature. His photograph has been widely used, let's say, by news outlets over the last 12 months or so. Dorna Sports, their purchase by Liberty Media, high profile. I mean, let's say some of these deals have been announced and maybe are to be ratified, or regulation confirmation is pending, but we certainly include them because, yeah, at least there is public domain knowledge in the public domain that these 2 parties are speaking to each other and have executed transactions. So we report on it, and that figure is a big figure. Like I said, $37 billion. You have some teams like Inter Milan and Baltimore Orioles. Other teams that have been rumored to be for sale, the Red Sox, for example, the Boston Red Sox. Maybe they might be in, sorry, not the Boston Red Sox. I'm confusing myself. The Chicago White Sox, and Jerry Reinsdorf has been apparently in talks to sell a stake in the Chicago baseball team. But yeah, these are just some examples of the major deals that took place this year. 65% of total investment went into fans, which, as I mentioned already, is a really interesting thing for us to see. The big shift from last year, solutions for athletes down 60%, fans and content up 40% off the base of last year. So pretty big shifts if you think about it that way. Even though the ratios are more or less the same, the ratios have skewed. There's been a 10% jump in the comparative percentages, but if you look at it from last year, there's a pretty big jumps from 60% down, 50% down, and 40% up. The top companies highlighted once again, but beyond the top 3, we've got companies like 15 Seconds of Fame and Quintar, which are also in immersive. Well, Quintar is in again augmented reality solutions, and 15 Seconds of Fame basically puts a wide audience onto the screens inside sports arenas. The breakup between the two subsectors and between B2B versus B2C business models. The third trend that we wanted to highlight and we have in our report is athletes increasingly taking a role not just as investors but as founders themselves. This is a really interesting trend that we've seen emerge over the last few years. The athlete moving from just a brand ambassador to an equity based investor, which is already a strong use case. They see the value in attaching their name with the brand and want to participate in the upside as that brand grows on the back of their participation. And then they say, hey, actually, instead of owning a small piece of equity, why not just own a larger chunk or maybe even all of it myself? People like Magnus Carlsen, Patrice Evra, Lando Norris have all been active around sports technology or somewhere around that topic. David Beckham owns an esports team. They've had some issues. You may know Tiger Woods with Tomorrow Golf, for example, in previous years. But by the way, these are all deals that have happened in 2024. These are not older deals that I'm highlighting. These are all in the last year. Um, Michael asks, why has management and organization taken such a hit? It's an interesting question, Michael. I think we've seen this trend of, let's say, B2B solutions go up and down. I don't know if it's MNO has taken such a hit as much as fans has taken a leap forward. So I think B2B solutions is on specific topics, things like broadcasting tech, media tech, fan data capture will always have value, but it's just that more money will go into whatever the hot flavor of the month is or flavor of the season is. In the past, it's been sports betting. In the past, it's been NFTs or Web3 based solutions. This year is just fan experience or fan commerce driven solutions. So I think it's it's more of an opportunity cost switch. So I would rather do this than that, than saying, hey, these B2B solutions or MNO is not attractive. I think as sports grows and professionalizes increasingly, you will see B2B solutions continue to raise good amounts of capital, but there is better paths to scale, and the opportunity here is bigger, shall we say, on the fan solution side. It's faster to scale, all of those things. Hope that answers your question. Those are the trends covered. I'm going to jump into the investor ecosystem. And this is another important section because we want to highlight who are the main actors in different parts of the world. This is, of course, a VC report. So who are the VCs? Who are the ones that we feature? And there is a few of them, majority of whom are in the US. There are a couple of slides that I can show you of just American investors. We could have put maybe two more slides on just US focused, US based funds. Not all of them are super active. We try to highlight the most active ones, and that's what we've done over here. I think we have about 50, 60, I think about 60 change American investors, and then the main funds from Asia. A lot of the American funds are driven by athletes, it must be said, the likes of SC30, Serena Ventures, Sapphire Sport, which is behind City Football Group, who are a partner. So there are VC funds and PE funds, all interacting here. Playtime, which is by Lionel Messi, and various others, right? So there are a number of funds here driven by athletes. There are also a number of funds here driven by specific sports. EP, Elysian Parks Golf Ventures, which is their golf focused fund. Even Old Tom Ventures is particularly focused on golf. So you see some interesting focus here. Sharp Alpha Advisors is primarily focused on betting. So yeah, you get funds which have specific topics that they cover, but in general, all of them will look at sports technology innovation. So they look at performance, fan, media, gaming, betting, perhaps. These are the topics that most of these funds will be looking into. Less mature funds in Asia, or fewer, I should say, mature funds in Asia. Some of them are not particularly active either anymore. Dream Sports Investments, for example, which is the offshoot of Dream Capital, I haven't seen them making too many investments recently. While you have other names like Centercourt Capital emerging from India, which has been increasingly active. So a mix here. You have to know who's doing what. You can't just be applying. If you're a startup founder, I don't think it makes sense to just bang an email to all these funds. It's good to know who's doing what. Within Europe, slightly mixed in between the US and Asia. In Asia, I will say that there are fewer funds, but the ones that are there are pretty pretty large, and they want to cut big tickets. In the US, you have funds of all sizes, big ticket funds, early stage funds, and so on. In Europe, they tend to be more early stage, very few large funds in this list. I think Hero Capital, based out of London, is the only like really sizable fund that you could compare, that, let's say, wouldn't look out of place on the US map. And they're about 150 million dollar fund, but the others tend to be 10, 15, 20, up to 50. For example, with Apex Capital, I think a 50 or 60 million euro fund. And I think they must be the second biggest. I'm not sure. There are too many others that I know that are that large. So yeah, it's just interesting to see the different landscape. A lot of these are, as I mentioned, early stage funds, but also you're starting to see aggregated, let's say, player driven funds. So just a couple over here. Players Fund in London, which is driven by the cricketers, Ben Stokes and I believe Stuart Broad, fast bowler. Players Tech is an aggregation of a number of footballers out of Germany. And there are a few others. Sport Republic is by the owners of Southampton FC. So quite a few like funds that are very close to sport and not just venture capital from the outside. Some of them are really coming from within the sports industry. And the last one, a few names in the Oceania and around Australia. For example, Wildcard Ventures, which is by the Australian Open. They've actually rebranded. I think it'll be called AO Ventures. If it's not already happened, it might happen early next year. XV Capital, which is by Sterling Mortlock. Athletic Ventures by other athletes. So a few funds based out of Australia, which is, as I mentioned earlier, is a very important sports tech market, and a couple in Brazil as well, which is probably one of the emerging sports tech focused regions. Another snapshot of from our pro report, we break down which investors have been the most active and what kind of deals they have been doing. You'll see a lot of the familiar names like Courtside, KB, Will Ventures, Andreessen Horowitz, Elysian Park. They are the ones who are most active in 2023 and 24. They genuinely believe in the power of sports tech, so continue to invest. Whereas on the left side, the early stage, you'll see not too many of those funds which have the most number of deals actually cut investments in 2024. So a lot of those deals, you see them as zero. But hey, we hope this will change moving forward. All right, that is it essentially. You can always come back to the pro report. I've shown you some snapshots from, let's say, most of the data from the light report, some slides from the pro report. We have some offers running currently if you want to join up for the pro report plus the DB. This is a little bit about us, what we do, SportsTechX. If you don't know about us already, Content Consult Connect. We have a number of clients. We create reports, a newsletter, database, events, podcasts, etc. So we create a lot of data all around sports tech, all around sports investment. Where is the future of sports? Those are the topics that we cover, and those are some of our clients. I guess I'll leave it there. I haven't heard much from you guys. I hope the stream has gone out okay. It looks like it's up on LinkedIn, but maybe it was too last minute, or this is not a good time, I think, for you to join. But hopefully you'll find the recording valuable, and you can take a look at it whenever. When you do, drop us a line, give us a shout, ask us a question. We're always here to address any questions or any comments that you may have on what's been happening in the sports tech space. Even if you just want to say hi, meet up for a coffee, we're available to do that. All right, guys, like I said, that is a wrap. If there are no more questions, then I guess I will call an end to this stream pretty early, and it doesn't look like there are. If you want to follow us on Twitter or LinkedIn or Instagram, basically it's SportsTechX across all the platforms, and our website sportstechx.com, where you can sign up for the report and the newsletter and all our other assets. Do I see any more questions? Actually, yeah, I feel some chats coming in now. Michael, if you want to connect directly, just drop a line in the chat. You can find me on LinkedIn. Drop me a message, and happy to have a conversation or whatever you want to. Hi, Skew. Ruben says thank you for the analysis. Personally, I'm excited about a few things. Anything around sports media broadcasting is a hot topic right now because there's so much disruption happening in the media landscape. But who's buying rights? How much are these rights valued for? What will be distribution models going forward? I think that'll be an interesting area to watch out for. Beyond that, yeah, any, let's say, anything around really innovative, engaging fan experiences where a fan, either in stadium or at home, can enjoy their sport in a better way. I know that's a very broad topic, but I'll give you an example. Cam.ai, this is a company that we've been looking at. They do AI-based translation, real time, of like sports commentary and stuff. So you could be watching a game, your favorite sport, and the AI will translate the commentary. But not only that, it'll do it in the voice of the original speaker. So imagine this, imagine you're watching this webinar, but you might be watching it in Spanish or Mandarin, but the Spanish or Mandarin sounds exactly like me. And it sounds like my voice, my cadence, my intonation, my inflection, all of that, which is really interesting. So I think the applications of that are pretty far and wide. So that's another example. So broadcast innovation and really innovative fan experiences. Thanks, David. Thanks, everybody else that has taken the time to join us. I know it was a bit of an odd hour to come on, but I hope you've enjoyed it. The recording is here. If you want any more information, feel free to get in touch. All right, guys, that's a wrap. See you when we do. Cheers.